The bruise was impossible to miss. Purple-yellow, spreading across my left cheekbone. I'd forgotten to cover it with makeup. Forgotten to grab my concealer when Luis kicked me out into the rain at 11 p.m. Now I stood in a 24-hour convenience store, counting out $11.34 for apples and instant noodles. My hands shook, not from cold, from everything else. Behind me in line, a man cleared his throat. I didn't turn around. I never made eye contact anymore. 4 years with Luis had taught me that. My wallet slipped. Coins hit the floor. The man bent down, helped me collect them. Black wool coat, baseball cap, tattoos crawling up his neck from under his collar. When he handed me the last quarter, his eyes stopped on my face. "Who the hell put hand on you?" His voice was calm, too calm. Korean accent, sharp eyes that saw too much. I should have lied. My boyfriend. The words came out before I could stop them. The stranger went still. "Where do you live?" 20 minutes later, I gave him my address. I don't know why. Maybe because he asked like he actually cared. Maybe because I was tired of pretending the bruises didn't exist. By sunrise, Luis would be gone. And I'd owe my freedom to a man whose name I didn't even know. Before we begin, tap that subscribe button. This story will show you what happens when a stranger decides to care more than the people who should have protected you all along. The alarm screamed at 4:45 a.m. I slapped it silent and lay there staring at the water stain on the ceiling shaped like a question mark. Luis snored on the couch 3 feet away. He reeked of vodka and cigarette smoke. The smell had soaked into the cushions so deep that even when he wasn't there, the apartment still smelled like him. He used to sleep in the bed with me. Then he started saying the couch was more comfortable. Then he started saying I moved too much at night. Then he just stopped pretending there was a reason. I dragged myself up. Every joint in my body screamed. 6 years at Burger Haven had carved grooves into my spine that would never straighten. Opening shift meant I'd be on my feet until 2 p.m. Then I'd clock out for 30 minutes and clock back in until closing at 11 p.m. 16 hours today, same as yesterday, same as tomorrow. I stumbled to the bathroom and started the routine. Foundation over the fading fingerprints on my upper arm. Concealer under my eyes to hide the fact I hadn't really slept in weeks. Mascara to look human. The woman in the mirror looked 50. Not 28. My phone buzzed on the sink. Mom calling. Right on schedule. "Esther, your father and I were talking last night. You're 28 now, sweetheart. When are you and Luis going to make it official? He seems like such a nice young man." I stared at Luis sprawled on my couch. Shirtless. Mouth open. Drool on the pillow I'd bought with my own money. An empty bottle of bottom-shelf vodka on the floor next to 3 losing lottery tickets. "Nice. We're taking things slow, Mom." "Well, don't take too slow. You're not getting any younger. A woman your age needs to think about settling down. Having children. Luis has a good heart. That's what matters." I hung up before she could finish. 4 years ago, Luis had a good heart. Or at least he pretended to. He'd brought me daisies on our 3rd date because I mentioned they were my favorite. He'd talked about his dreams of opening a coffee shop. About saving money to travel through Europe. About building a life together. I believed every word. He moved in after 8 months. My parents threw us a little celebration dinner. Dad shook his hand. Mom hugged him. They told me I'd found a good one. 2 months later, Luis quit his job. Said his boss was disrespectful. Didn't mention he'd been fired for chronic lateness and sleeping through his shift. He'd find something better, he promised. Something he actually cared about. That was 3 years and 7 months ago. Now I worked doubles to pay rent. To keep the lights on. To buy groceries he ate and cigarettes he smoked and lottery tickets he lost on. Last week I found $200 missing from my emergency fund. He said he borrowed it for an interview suit. I found the lottery stubs in his jacket pocket that night. I grabbed my keys and my Burger Haven visor and walked out the door. The bus came at 5:20 a.m. I had 6 minutes to make it 3 blocks. Behind me, Luis kept snoring. He wouldn't wake up until noon. Wouldn't shower. Wouldn't look for work. Wouldn't do a single productive thing except drain another day from my life. 4 years. 4 years I'd never get back. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. I came home at midnight smelling like fryer grease and exhaustion. Luis sat on the couch watching some reality show about rich people with real problems. He didn't look up when I walked in. Didn't ask how my shift went. Didn't notice I'd been gone for 18 hours. I dropped my bag on the kitchen counter. Did you apply to any jobs today? He kept his eyes on the TV. I'm looking. Looking isn't the same as applying. I'm being selective, Esther. I'm not taking just anything. I have standards. Standards. The man who hadn't showered in 3 days had standards. The rent is due Friday. We're 200 short, so work another shift. He finally looked at me. You're good at that. The words hit like a slap. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. What about that warehouse job I showed you? They're hiring. 15 an hour. Benefits after 90 days. Luis laughed. Actually laughed. You want me to work in a warehouse? Breaking my back for $15 an hour? My last boss was already disrespectful enough. I'm not settling for that. His last boss. The one who fired him for showing up 2 hours late 3 times in 1 week. For sleeping in the storage room. For cursing out a customer who complained about cold fries. But I didn't say that. I never said that anymore. I walked to the bedroom and opened my dresser drawer. The envelope where I kept emergency cash sat there lighter than it should be. My hands shook as I counted. Once, twice, $200. Gone. The floor tilted under my feet. Luis. I walked back to the living room holding the empty envelope. Where's the $200 from my drawer? He didn't even pause the show. I borrowed it. Borrowed it for what? Interview suit. I've got a callback next week. Corporate position. They have a dress code. What company? You wouldn't know it. It's professional. High-end. Something cold slid down my spine. What's the name? Why are you interrogating me? I told you I have an interview. Isn't that what you wanted? I went back to the bedroom. Checked his jacket pockets. 3 crumpled lottery tickets. All losers. A receipt from the liquor store dated today. $47.36. No interview. No callback. No suit. I stood there holding the evidence. My phone was in my hand before I realized I'd picked it up. I could call the police. Report theft. Get him out. End this nightmare. My thumb hovered over the screen. 4 years. 4 years of my life poured into this man. 4 years of defending him to friends who stopped calling because they couldn't watch me self-destruct. 4 years of telling my parents he was the one. 4 years of convincing myself that love meant staying when things got hard. If I called the police now, what did that make me? Stupid for staying this long? Weak for believing he'd change? A failure who wasted 4 years on a man who saw me as a paycheck and a punching bag? I put the phone down. He'd change. He had to. People didn't waste 4 years for nothing. That money had to mean something. The sacrifices had to count for something. Tomorrow I'd talk to him. Really talk to him. Set boundaries. Make him understand this couldn't continue. Tomorrow he'd be different. I believed that lie the same way I believed the daisies meant something 4 years ago. The door slammed at 2 a.m. I jerked awake on the couch. Luis stumbled through the doorway soaking wet. Rain dripped from his hair onto the carpet. He reeked of whiskey and something else. Desperation. Failure. Rage. Make me something to eat. His words slurred together into one long sound. I sat up, my heart already pounding. It's 2 in the morning, Luis. There's leftovers in the... I said make me something. I stood up. Every instinct told me to just do it. Make the food. Keep the peace. Survive another night. But something inside me snapped. No. The word hung in the air like a grenade. Luis turned slowly. What did you say? I said no. I worked 16 hours today. I'm exhausted. You have 2 hands. Make it yourself. His face changed. I'd seen that look before. The shift from drunk to dangerous. From pathetic to predatory. He crossed the room in 3 steps. His hand shot out. Shoved me backward. My hip cracked against the kitchen counter. Pain exploded up my side. I gasped. You think you can talk to me like that? He stepped closer. His breath was hot and rancid. After everything I do for you? Everything you do? The words ripped out before I could stop them. You don't do anything. I pay for everything. I work myself to death while you gamble away money you stole from. The backhand came fast. The crack echoed through the apartment. My head snapped sideways. Stars burst across my vision. I tasted copper. Blood filled my mouth where my teeth had cut into my cheek. I touched my face. My hand came away red. You're pathetic, Luis said. His voice was calm now. Cold, like he'd sobered up the second his hand connected with my face. 28 years old, working at a burger joint, living in this shithole, and you think you're better than me? I tried to speak. No words came. You're lucky I stay, Esther. You're lucky I put up with your nagging and your attitude in your face. Because no one else would want you. A woman your age with nothing to offer? You should be thanking me. He grabbed my arm. His fingers dug into the bruises already there from last week. Get out. What? I said get out. He dragged me toward the door. Luis, wait. My keys. Get the hell out of my apartment. He shoved me into the hallway. I stumbled, barely caught myself against the wall. Please, I don't have my phone. I don't have. The door slammed in my face. The lock clicked. I stood there in the hallway wearing sleep shorts and a tank top. No shoes, no keys, no phone, no coat. Rain hammered against the window at the end of the hall. My face throbbed. I could feel it swelling. The bruise already forming, hot and tight under my skin. I pressed my forehead against the door. Luis, please. Nothing. I tried the handle. Locked. I had nowhere to go. No friends who'd answer at 2 a.m. No family who'd understand. No money except whatever was in my jacket pocket from yesterday's tips. I walked down 3 flights of stairs. Out into the rain. The cold hit me like a wall. Within seconds I was soaked through. I checked my pocket. $11.34 in crumpled bills. Enough for discount apples and instant noodles. Enough to survive one more night. I started walking toward the only place still open at this hour. The 24-hour convenience store 3 blocks away. 3 blocks in the rain felt like 3 miles. My feet were numb against the wet pavement. Every step sent pain shooting up from my hip where I'd hit the counter. My face throbbed. I could feel it swelling with each heartbeat. The 24-hour convenience store glowed ahead like a beacon. I pushed through the door. A bell chimed. The clerk looked up from his phone, saw me dripping on his floor, and looked back down. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Too bright, too exposing. I grabbed a basket and moved through the aisles. Discount apples, 3 for $1. Instant noodles, 2 packs for 90 cents. The cheapest bread. I did the math. $11.34. Make it last until Friday. At the register, I caught my reflection in the security monitor. The bruise. Purple-yellow spreading across my left cheekbone. Swelling. Dark. Obvious. Undeniable. I'd forgotten to cover it. My makeup bag was locked inside with everything else. My hands shook as I counted out the bills. 1s and 5s. Damp from rain and sweat and fear. The wallet slipped. Coins exploded across the floor. Quarters rolling toward the candy rack. Dimes spinning under the register. I dropped to my knees and started gathering them. My vision blurred. From rain or tears, I couldn't tell anymore. A shadow fell over me. Let me help. The voice was deep, calm, controlled. A man in a black wool coat knelt beside me. I caught glimpses as he moved. Tattoos creeping up his neck. Strong hands collecting quarters with precision. No wasted motion. He stood and held out the coins. I took them. Our fingers touched. His hands were warm despite the cold. Thank you, I whispered. He didn't move, didn't step back toward his place in line. His eyes stayed on my face. Not my eyes, my cheekbone. The silence stretched between us. The fluorescent lights hummed. The clerk's phone played some video. Rain hammered the windows. The stranger's jaw tightened. Who the hell put hand on you? The question hit like a physical blow. Not what happened. Not, are you okay? Not the polite lie people told themselves when they saw something wrong but didn't want to get involved. Direct, specific, like he already knew the answer and was just waiting for me to say it out loud. My throat closed. 4 years of practice screaming at me to lie, to deflect, to protect the secret. I'm fine. You're not fine. His voice stayed calm, level. Who did this to you? The fluorescent lights buzzed. The clerk's phone kept playing. Rain kept falling. And I broke. My boyfriend. The words came out barely louder than a breath. But they landed like a confession. The stranger went completely still. Something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. Then disappeared behind perfect control. He pulled out his phone. Typed something. Put it back in his pocket. Where do you live? I should have run. Should have grabbed my groceries and disappeared into the rain. Should have protected what was left of my dignity. Instead, I told him. The apartment number. The building with the broken front door lock. The floor. Everything. Stay here, he said. Buy yourself coffee. Something to eat. Don't go back yet. I don't understand. You will. He paid for his items. A bottle of soju. A pack of cigarettes. Left them on the counter. Walked out into the rain. I stood there holding my coins and my groceries and the wreckage of my life. I didn't even know his name. Chapter 5. The Confession. If you want to see what happens when someone finally fights back, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe what comes next. I bought coffee with what was left of my money. The stranger hadn't moved. He stood near the window watching the rain. Waiting. I walked over. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Why do you care? The words came out sharper than I meant. You don't even know me. He turned. Those eyes found mine. I know enough. You know nothing. I know someone put their hands on you. I know you're standing here at 2 in the morning with no coat and no shoes buying food with pocket change. I know that bruise is fresh. He paused. And I know you're going to tell me it's not as bad as it looks. My throat tightened. It's complicated. It's not. You don't understand. Luis isn't always like this. He's just stressed. About money. About not having work. I shouldn't have pushed him. I should have just made the food and... How long? The question stopped me cold. What? How long has he been hitting you? No one had ever asked me that. Not directly. Not with eyes that refused to let me hide. 4 years. The number fell out of my mouth before I could stop it. 4 years. 1460 days of choosing this. The stranger's expression didn't change. But something in his posture shifted. Tightened. And suddenly I couldn't stop talking. He wasn't like this when we met. He was kind. Charming. He brought me flowers. Talked about his dreams. My parents loved him. They still call every Sunday asking when we're getting married. They don't know he lost his job. They don't know about the gambling. They don't know he steals money from my drawer for lottery tickets. My voice cracked. I've put 4 years into him. 4 years of trying to help. Trying to fix what's broken. If I leave now, what does that say about me? That I wasted all that time? That I'm a failure who couldn't make it work? The words kept coming, like a dam breaking. He took $200 last week. Said it was for an interview suit. I found the lottery stubs in his jacket. I should have called the police. Should have kicked him out. But I keep thinking if I just try harder, if I'm just patient enough, he'll go back to being the man I fell in love with. I touched my cheekbone. Winced. Tonight he told me I'm lucky he stays. That no one else would want a woman my age. That I should be grateful. The stranger's hands curled into fists. Then slowly relaxed. Perfect control. What's your address? What are you going to do? Your address. I should have asked more questions. Should have demanded answers. Should have protected the secret I'd been keeping from everyone who claimed to love me. Instead, I told him everything. The building. The apartment number. The floor. The door with the broken peephole that Luis never fixed despite promising to for 3 years. The stranger pulled out his phone. Typed something. Put it away. What's your name? I asked. Kane. Kane Struman. I'm Esther. I know. He started toward the door. Stopped. Turned back. Stay here until sunrise, Esther. Buy yourself breakfast. Don't go home yet. Why? What are you going to? But he was already gone. Out into the rain. A black SUV pulled up. He got in. It disappeared into the darkness. I stood there holding my coffee. A stranger named Kane knew where I lived. And I'd given him that information without hesitation. Like some part of me already knew what was about to happen. I sat in that convenience store until dawn. The clerk changed shifts at 6. The new one didn't ask why I'd been there for 4 hours. Didn't comment on the bruise or the fact I had no shoes. I bought another coffee. Watched the sky turn from black to gray through the rain-streaked windows. At 6:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Except I didn't have my phone. It was locked inside with everything else. I stared at my empty hands. Confused. Exhausted. Too broken to make sense of anything. Then I remembered. The phone wasn't buzzing. I was imagining things. At 6:52 a.m., the door chimed. A man walked in. Not Kane. Someone else. Bigger. He walked straight to me. Miss Finn? I nodded. You can go home now. He left before I could ask questions. Luis woke to pounding, not knocking, pounding, the kind that said open up or we're coming through anyway. He stumbled off the couch. His head felt like it was splitting open. His mouth tasted like cigarettes and regret. He yanked open the door without thinking. 3 men stood in the hallway. The one in front wore a black wool coat. No hat now. Face fully visible. Korean. Sharp features. Tattoos crawling up his neck. Eyes like winter. Behind him, 2 others. Massive. Silent. The kind of men who communicated threat just by existing. Who the hell are you? Luis Ken. Not a question. A statement. We need to talk. I don't know you. Get out of my... Kane stepped inside. Luis backed up automatically. The other 2 followed. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like a cell door locking. You have 2 choices, Kane said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Like a doctor explaining a terminal diagnosis. Sign this paper and disappear. Or I make you disappear. He pulled a folded document from his coat. Luis's mouth went dry. What is this? Who are you? The paper is a legal undertaking. You will never contact, approach, or harm Esther Finn again. You will not call her. You will not text her. You will not go near her workplace. You will not speak her name. You will leave this city today and you will never come back. You can't just... I can. Kane's voice dropped. The only question is whether you walk out of here or get carried out in pieces. Luis looked at the 2 men by the door. They hadn't moved, hadn't blinked, just stood there like statues carved from violence. His hands shook as he took the paper. The document was professional, typed, legal language he barely understood. But the bottom line was crystal clear. Violation of this agreement will result in permanent removal. Permanent removal. Luis's bladder almost gave out. I need a pen, he whispered. Kane handed him one. Luis's signature looked like a child's scrawl. His hand trembled so badly he could barely form letters. Pack a bag, Kane said. 1 bag. 5 minutes. My stuff. 1 bag. 5 minutes. Luis grabbed a black duffel from the closet. Threw in clothes. His charger. A toothbrush. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Kane watched. Expressionless. Time's up. One of the men took the duffel. The other took Luis by the arm. Firm. Not gentle. Not rough. Just enough pressure to communicate that resistance meant pain. They walked him down 3 flights of stairs. A black SUV waited at the curb. Engine running. Luis looked back once at the building. At the apartment where he'd lived rent-free for 4 years. Where he'd destroyed a woman who only wanted to be loved. The car door opened. Get in. Luis got in. Kane leaned down. Spoke through the window. If I ever see you again, Luis, they won't find enough of you to identify. Do you understand? Luis nodded. He couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. The door closed. The SUV pulled away. Luis Ken never came back. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. I walked home at 7 in the morning. Still no shoes. Still soaking wet. The bruise on my face had ripened into something dark and swollen. People on the bus stared. I didn't care anymore. I stood outside my apartment door for a full minute before trying the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. Luis had kicked me out. My keys were inside. I'd have to call the landlord. Beg. Explain. Add another humiliation to the pile. I reached for the handle one more time. It turned. The door opened. I stepped inside and froze. Silence. Not the tense silence before a fight. Not the angry silence of Luis passed out drunk. Real silence. The kind that only happens when you're completely alone. The couch was empty. I walked through the apartment like I was moving underwater. Everything looked the same but felt different. The air was cleaner, lighter. Luis's clothes were gone from the bedroom floor. His shoes weren't by the door. His jacket with the lottery tickets, gone. The empty bottles, the overflowing ashtrays, the chaos he carried like a disease. All of it, erased. I opened the closet. My clothes hung there neat and untouched. The space where his things had been was just empty hangers. The bathroom, no razor, no cologne, no toothbrush, no evidence he'd ever existed. I walked back to the kitchen. A note sat on the counter. White paper, precise handwriting. The locks have been changed. New keys are in the drawer by the sink. The lease is now solely in your name. 3 months of rent has been paid in full. He will not come back. You are safe. No signature. I read it 3 times. Then opened the drawer. 2 new keys on a simple silver ring. My legs gave out. I sat down hard on the kitchen floor. My back against the cabinet where Luis used to hide bottles. The floor was cold, hard, real, and I cried. Not the silent tears I'd perfected over 4 years. Not the choked sobs I'd learned to swallow so he wouldn't hear. Real crying. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and buried. The kind that shakes your whole body and empties you out. I cried for the 4 years I'd lost. For the woman I used to be before Luis taught me that love meant enduring. For all the times I'd covered bruises and lied to my parents and convinced myself this was normal. I cried because he was gone. I cried because a stranger had done in one night what I couldn't do in 4 years. I cried because I was free. The apartment was silent except for my breathing. No footsteps. No door slamming. No voice telling me I was worthless. No one stealing my money or my dignity or my hope. Just silence. Safe silence. I sat on that kitchen floor until the sun climbed high enough to stream through the window. Then I stood up, locked the door with my new key, walked to my bedroom, my bed, not the couch, not the floor, my actual bed. I lay down fully clothed, still wet from the rain, still bruised, still broken, but alone, safely alone. I slept for 14 hours straight. When I woke up, Luis still wasn't there. The apartment was still silent, still safe. And for the first time in 4 years, I didn't wake up afraid. 7 days passed. 7 mornings of waking up to silence. 7 days of not flinching at footsteps in the hallway. 7 days of coming home to an apartment that stayed exactly how I left it. No one had stolen my money. No one had pawned my things. No one had turned my home into a war zone. I worked my shifts at Burger Haven. Came home. Ate real meals at my own table. Slept in my own bed. Started remembering what peace felt like. My parents called on Sunday. "How's Luis?" Mom asked. "We haven't heard from him in a while." We broke up. Silence. Then, "Oh, Esther. What happened? You two seemed perfect together." Perfect. I touched the fading bruise on my cheekbone. It wasn't working. "Sweetheart, you're 28. You can't afford to be picky anymore. Maybe you two can talk it out? Go to counseling? Luis has such a good heart." I hung up. He came on Thursday night during closing. I was wiping down tables when the bell chimed. I looked up and froze. Kane stood by the entrance. Black coat. No baseball cap this time. His face fully visible under the harsh lights. My heart slammed against my ribs. He walked toward me. Slow. Deliberate. The few remaining customers didn't look up, but I felt the shift in the room. The way air moved around him. Esther. He knew my name. Of course he did. He'd rewritten my entire life. "I don't know how to thank you," I started. He held up a hand. "You don't owe me anything." From his coat, he pulled a cream-colored envelope. Expensive paper. Heavy. My name written across the front in precise, elegant handwriting. "Open this when you're ready," he said. "Not before." "Ready for what?" "You'll know." I took the envelope. It was heavier than it should be. Something more than paper inside. "I don't even know anything about you. Kane Struman." He said it simply, like it explained everything. "Why did you help me?" Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile. Something deeper. "Because no one else did." He turned to leave. Wait. But he was already walking away. Out the door. Into the night. The same black SUV waited at the curb. He got in without looking back. The envelope felt warm in my hands. That night I sat on my bed staring at it. The cream-colored paper seemed to glow in the lamplight. My name in that precise handwriting. The weight of whatever was inside. I could open it right now. Find out what a man who'd removed my abuser in one night wanted to tell me. My hands trembled. I wasn't ready. I didn't know what I was supposed to be ready for, but every instinct screamed that opening this envelope would change everything. Again, I'd just found silence, safety, peace. Whatever was in this envelope felt bigger than that. More permanent, more dangerous. I put it in my nightstand drawer. Closed it, turned off the light. The envelope sat there in the dark. Waiting. And I tried not to think about the man with tattoos on his neck and winter in his eyes who'd asked, "Who the hell put hand on you?" Like my answer mattered. Like I mattered. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But the envelope waited anyway. Patient. just like him. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button. Stories like Esther's happen every day, and you won't want to miss what comes next. 6 months changed everything. I started therapy in March. Found a woman named Dr. Chen who didn't ask why I stayed. Who didn't make me explain myself. Who just helped me understand that surviving isn't the same as living. I reconnected with friends. The ones who'd stopped calling because watching me drown was too painful. Sarah, Michelle, Jasmine. They came back slowly. Coffee dates, movie nights, reminders that I used to laugh. I set boundaries with my parents. Told them I wasn't getting married to make them comfortable. That my worth wasn't measured in wedding rings and grandchildren. Mom cried. Dad didn't understand, but they stopped asking about Luis. The bruises faded, not just the visible ones. The invisible ones too. The ones that made me apologize for existing. The ones that made me believe I deserved less than nothing. I got promoted at Burger Haven. Assistant manager. Not glamorous, but mine. Earned. And through it all, the envelope sat in my nightstand drawer. Waiting. September 20th. 6 months to the day. I came home from my shift, showered, made tea. Sat on my bed with the envelope in my hands. The paper had softened from handling. I'd held it 100 times without opening it. Traced my name in that precise handwriting. Wondered. Tonight felt different. I slid my finger under the fold. Inside was a single card. Heavy stock. Expensive. The kind of paper that meant something. 5 words in Kane's handwriting. Will you marry me? Below it, a phone number. My breath stopped. I read it again. Then again. Looking for context that wasn't there. For explanation. For anything except those 5 impossible words. A marriage proposal. From a man I'd met once in a convenience store at 2 in the morning. Who'd seen my bruised face and decided to rewrite my life. Who'd made Luis disappear. Who'd paid my rent and changed my locks and given me back my freedom. A man I didn't know. A man who'd seen me when I was invisible. I picked up my phone. Stared at the number. Dr. Chen's voice in my head. You choose what comes next, Esther. Not your past. Not your fear. You. I thought about the difference between being saved and being seen. Luis had needed saving. Constantly. And I'd drowned trying to be his life raft. Kane had seen me drowning and simply stopped the flood. He didn't need me to fix him. Didn't need me to shrink so he could feel bigger. He'd asked a question and waited 6 months for an answer. That was patience, not possession. I typed, "Can we start with coffee?" The 3 dots appeared instantly. Like he'd been waiting. "I'll bring the soju." I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised me. I typed back, "When?" "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll pick you up. You don't know where I live." A pause. Then, "Yes, I do." Of course he did. I set the phone down. Looked at the card again. 5 words that should have terrified me. But all I felt was curious. Curious about the man with winter eyes who'd asked, "Who the hell put hand on you?" and meant it. Curious about what coffee with a stranger who wasn't really a stranger would feel like. Curious about whether being seen could turn into something more. I put the card back in the envelope. Put the envelope back in the drawer. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., I'd find out. And for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't afraid of the answer.